What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some Bombs Over Providence. And we're going back to their 2005 album, Shake Your Body Politic. And I have to admit, going through the first handful of songs and looking at the lyrics, which again, I have it correctly framed in my head now that we can go through the lyrics after I listen. Big shout out to Chris once again. Not only do I feel like this band, it's unfortunate that they were so short-lived, but they really do have poetic nuance to their lyrics. Now, I think their lyrics and their titles are sort of searing and they're, comically provocative and so on. But in the lyrics themselves, I do see a lot of, again, like poetic wisdom and perspective. They put really interesting ideas, not unlike Bad Religion, in the form of clever and ultimately in some cases, deep lyrics. So yeah, I've enjoyed the thematic framework we're working from, and as I mentioned before, some of the sounds are reminding me of, Leftover Crack and Anti-Flag and some groups that I've listened to for a long time, so yeah, bottom line, loving it sonically as well. The next tune, speaking of ridiculous and comic or comedic titles, is Zombie Cheerleader Slumber Party Massacre. So it sounds like one of those 1960s low-budget exploitation type of horror movies where, it's about, like, women in bathing suits running away from, like, hilariously costumed monsters. So it sounds like a title like that, and I don't know, I feel like you could do some interesting things with that. Perhaps it could be about the lack of, genuine substance. It's like a cheap thrill or something like that. So, yeah, ultimately we'll have to see what I can catch, and then, after I talk about what I heard, we'll go and look at the actual lyrics. So let's listen. This is Bombs Over Providence from their 2005 album, Shake Your Body Politic, and it's Zombie Cheerleader Slumber Party Massacre. And in moments like this, they sonically remind me of 90s propaganda.
What do we do?
again, I like, not only does it remind me once again of a number of bands I'm fond of, but I think it's apropos that I was talking about the clever lyrics and writing that we've gone through in the previous tracks. Because what I did catch here, I caught a line about like a rebel, like scream or something like that, but then like we're fighting from checkout tills and like dissent and dollar bills. It feels like maybe we're in that territory of critiquing the punk scene for being increasingly commercialized and like packageable and sellable, and it's about dissent, and it's about dissidence, and it's about staking out a new way of doing things. As long as it's marketable and profitable, it feels like it's one of those kind of critiques. But it's interesting because a lot of those songs, like Triumph of the Swill by Dead Kennedys, like Back to the Motor League by Propagandhi, they focus on the music. This feels maybe like even more of a shot at the scene and the people who go to shows and make sure they have their band shirts that they purchased at like Hot Topic or something. Like it feels like a critique, maybe less of the bands per se and the music, and more of people who've gravitated to the world of punk rock and going to shows. But perhaps it's about image and style, and it's like this shallow, like lack of substance, like I was thinking about with the title. I still don't know if I'm reading this song right, how it connects to the, again, seeming like 50s or 60s low budget horror movie title. But yeah, it does sound like maybe we're talking about the way in which people who don't appreciate the legacy or the ethos of punk rock now like listening to some maybe pop punk bands. And that's not really to knock pop punk. There's some pop punk songs and even groups that I'm fond of, even if I do tend to enjoy more hardcore punk, especially like 80s and like early 90s hardcore punk. But yeah, it sounds like maybe it's a critique of people in the punk scene who it's more about how they look and what clothes they have when they go to shows, and making sure people know that they're into going to shows, and it's less about the actual ideas. So that seemed to be what it was working with. Let's find out if there's anything to that. And once again, shout out to Chris for making the lyrics easily available and accessible in the original email that he sent me. So here we go. We dumb smart kids got guts. We're buying in without selling out, and we're great at parties. Misplaced aggression chic, or ill-read rebels grief. Oh, that's what it was, rebels grief. We've got our weapons. Misplaced aggression chic is hilarious. We've made a lifetime of wearing our comfort on tattered sleeve. I'll buy you everything, baby. That's the way I show you my dissent. Yeah, see? I spent all my cash on you. You got nothing left. We mock the tags we wear at our subculture fairs, and we fight from checkout tills. I did hear that. Hot, well-dressed, and dumb disposable income with a knack for abstraction. I mean, again, it's hilarious and clever. Hot, well-dressed, and dumb disposable income with a knack for abstraction. We've made a lifetime of wearing our comfort on tattered sleeve. I'll buy you everything, babe. That's the way I show you my dissent. I spent all my time with you, and we're singing. I don't care about the state of the world today. We'll drown, but damn, won't we look good? I don't care about the fate of youth anyway. It's for the buying. Looks as good as trying. I don't care about the state of the world today. I don't care, because we don't know better. We live with blinders on, our memory nearly gone. We get new fall line chills, dissent and dollar bills. What do we see? What do we do? We've made a lifetime wearing our comfort on our sleeve. I'll buy you everything, baby. That's the way I show you my dissent. I spent my cash on you, got nothing left. It really does feel like that's what it's all about, or not all about, but that's the essence of the tune. And again, maybe also implicitly saying that not is it just about image and a lack of real substance, but some of these people, they're not even connecting with the ideas, never mind the ethos, the idea that we have to work together to find different ways of doing things that aren't so brutal and violent and oppressive and bigoted and so on, which a lot of punk rock that earns that name, certainly in like the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. Yeah, so there's maybe people who are, making sure they have the right band shirt and they have the like perfectly styled mohawk, but they actually don't even care like what happens. Oh, wars are happening, whatever. There's a show I'm going to on Friday. So again, it does seem like it's more of a critique of the scene rather than bands, which again, Triumph of the Swill, Back to the Motor League. There is a critique of fans, certainly Back to the Motor League, which, you know, whereas Triumph of the Swill, I think the target is like safe bands that big labels prefer because they're going to have big sales and not rock the boat or lead to, like, you know, rebellious youth or whatever. So I feel like that is more of a shot at labels and bands, whereas Back to the Motor League, it's bands and fans. This one feels like it's located mainly a criticism of people going to shows for not the right reasons or naively. So in any case, I feel like I've talked for like 20 minutes in this video, so I apologize. But shout out to Chris, and shout out to Bombs Over Providence, a really cool group that, you know, like some others that I'm familiar with, Ayahuasca, like punk metal hippie dub synthesis group, on Jalopy Offers Alternative Tentacles, who only made one album. I feel like they were far too short-lived, and it's a shame, because some really good stuff. I did remember, now that I think of that, I remember looking on Discogs, and maybe I mentioned this in the last video, a couple of the guys show up in a couple other groups together, and I think like one or two of the other people in Bombs Over Providence are in a couple other groups, so, you know, there's some of these people show up in some other places, but this particular configuration seems like it was sort of lightning in a bottle, and then unfortunately, you know, was extinguished. So in any case, shout out to Chris. Let me know what you think of this one. I will see you next time. Peace.